Welcome to another bloody Zwift video. And if you're thinking, where's the videos on the gym stuff, on the lifting combined with the endurance work, where's the running stuff, the races, the 5Ks, the 10Ks, hell, where is the dog? I feel your pain. Lockdown has imprisoned me within this garage. It is doing my head in. I'm trying to maintain sanity by dividing time between racing on Zwift and monitoring my children's homeschooling, which really just means keeping them off of their PlayStations. I have long since given up on them ever obtaining an education. I just don't want them hogging the Wi-Fi. So there are other subjects to come, but for now it is ZWIFT Racing League Season 2, Round 4, Category C, 2 laps around Yorkshire Harrogate course, which means it's going to be very hilly, which translates to me coming somewhere towards the back, if not possibly even last of all. But that doesn't mean there aren't above average points to be had. Now, a quick points recap. The winner of the race will get 40 points, and there are decreasing points going all the way down the field, so everybody at every position has something worth trying for. There are then, depending on the course, climbs and sprints. This course has one of each, so that's 2 laps, 2 chances at both. On the first lap, there are also points given for the first person to cross the finish line of the climb and the finish line of the sprint, irrespective of whether they were actually fastest. It's a sort of who is leading so far type point, and it's of no interest to me. What is of interest are the relatively big points given for the sprints. Because with 2 laps, there are 2 chances and therefore the possibility of getting both first and second fastest sprint. So a team decision was made that on a hilly course designed to test all-round cycling prowess, we would use the one person whose only real skill is being big to go off and hunt for some points. And to the outside world, that might seem like I'm a rather inappropriate tool to go hunting for such things. But if it works, it works. So let's jump into the race. The very first thing I did was pulled up the Yorkshire course on a ZWIFT free ride so I could have a little practice. The sprint is at the very end of the course, so rather than riding the whole thing, very boring, I immediately turned around, went backwards and looked for the sprint. Now there are 2 advantages to this. One is that I'm getting a good warm-up. If I'm going to be sprinting, I need to be doing some explosive warm-up. I can't just pedal gently and get ready for sprinting. So I'm going to have a little blast. The other thing is to work out exactly where I need to be sprinting from. And on this course, that is particularly important because as I cycle it backwards and I go through the start of the sprint, I see that it's right on a corner, which means I need to be going into the corner as fast as possible. I can't be getting round the bend and then accelerating to the start. It would be too late. So here I go. I've gone further down the road, I spin it around and I go back towards the start of the sprint. And it is really important with these sprints to hit them at full speed. If you drop wattage towards the end of the sprint, it won't actually reduce your speed that much. You'll still be rolling at a very high speed. But if you go into the sprint with 4 or 5 or 6 kilometers per hour still to build up, you are wasting speed. You need to cross the line at pretty much the speed you want to then maintain throughout the whole run. So on this practice run, because I now know where the start of the sprint is, just after the corner, I can use sighting the corner coming up as the point where I need to start really winding up the power. So here I am going into it, 600, 700 watts, around the corner and immediately over the line, and I'm already doing 50 kilometers per hour. Now at this point it's giving me an ETA of 16 seconds if I maintain at this level of wattage. But immediately on the left hand side it shows the current fastest times. And I can see that someone's already done a 14.8, the second time is a 16.4. So what I now know is that I can achieve something close to a first or second place based on this ZWIFT free ride. Now there is no guarantee that people in the race will be faster or slower than these times. But quite frankly, if I'm going to be up there first, second, third on a free ride with hundreds of other people on the course, I have to assume that I'm going to be reasonably okay going into the race itself. So rather than waste any further energy, I immediately back off. And in fact, this is interesting because as I roll through the finish line with 200 odd watts, because I'm not trying anymore, you'll notice that my actual time ends up being just 17.3. It puts me in 7th place currently on the course, despite not even trying for the second half of the sprint. So it shows how important it is to go in fast and not worry too much about tailing off towards the end. And then just to make sure I'm really comfortable, I spin it around, I have another go at it just to make sure that I'm timing it right. And once again, it gives me an ETA of 16, 17 seconds. So pretty early on, I back off the power, and again, I just roll through, knowing that I'm going to be somewhere up there come the race. What would have been really cool is, had that 14-second time not already been posted, which I couldn't beat, is to have actually gone for it and got first place sprint in the warm-up, because the advantage of that is I'd get the green sprinter's jersey, which I would then carry into the race itself. Turning up at the start of the race wearing the green sprinter's jersey already, which is exactly what I did last week, is a move that probably nobody else in the entire race even notices I've done. But for me, psychologically, it's a complete power move. I'm arriving at the start of the race in front of everybody. It's a kind of, hey, look who's arrived moment.
Knock, knock.
But I didn't get it, so here I am, start of the race in my boring old kit, and off we go. And very, very quickly, I realised that my plan was going to have to work. Almost immediately, everyone shoots off, and I find myself towards the back of the pack, not even having tried to end up at the back of the pack. Everyone just flew off for some reason. I say it's going to have to work because going quite gently and nailing the sprints, if it can be done, is quite cool. Going quite slowly, missing the sprints, means you look like a complete dick. There is therefore an element of pressure to make sure that this goes to plan. So the start of this course is, for me, incredibly boring. It's a hilly course, so it's not fast. It's just, to be honest, it's just a case of getting to the start of the sprint. I'm riding here with Bryn and Ben, two of my teammates. Bryn in particular is going for the King of the Mountain time, so the fastest climb. So he's also reserving a bit of energy for that. I'm going to try and lead him into that. He'll then try and lead me into the sprint, and we'll work off of each other. That's the plan. At this stage, with nothing else to think about, the only thing I'm really wondering about is how my toe is going to hold up. My toe, I dropped on it a couple of days ago the rear sprocket from my Trek Pro Caliber, which is sat over there. I was cleaning it because it's up for sale, and the rear sprocket is huge. It's a 12 cog massive Ninja Shimano Death Star thing. Fell on my foot, punctured my toenail. The level of pain when that happened was quite bizarre. I rolled around on the floor for about an hour. It was embarrassing. The issue right now is that, having done those couple of sprint warm-ups, the pain had returned. I'm not quite sure what was going on with my toe, possibly exploding with blood everywhere.
I ain't got time to bleed. Oh, okay.
It is true that I didn't have enough time to bleed, but I certainly had ample time to feel how bloody painful it was. So here's the first thing of interest. We are now approaching the climb that Bryn is going to try and fly up. And the plan is for me to go off fast and to give him a bit of a tow into the climb. I won't be able to do that for very long, but it will sort of slingshot him up the hill. He gives the command, right, left, go. And I wasn't sure whether he meant there is a right turn coming up, then a left turn, then we go, or if it is a typo and he meant, right, let's go. I erred on the side of caution and just went for it anyway. So here I go, pushing off, Bryn following behind me. There's a couple of other riders in the mix with us here. Bryn actually pulls in front of me at one point, so I dig down a bit and get up ahead of him, give him a nice draft, and he starts putting down some serious power actually. At this point, I'm done, toast, off he goes, and he flies off into the distance. He was shifting at this stage, and in fact, on the right-hand side, you can see him starting to move ahead of people that he's catching ahead of us. It was all going perfectly to plan until this point, a few seconds further on, when his wattage drops to 0 because his chain came off. So here I go cycling past him. The last place you want to pass your top climber is halfway up the climb, but that's exactly what happened. So having completely wasted some energy slingshotting Bryn to fall off his bike basically, I then had to recover some energy as I approached the sprint. So here I am approaching the start of the sprint. There's just Ben in front of me. One of the problems actually of sprinting in this way, going gently and then reserving some energy to go through fast, is that you typically go through with nobody else. There's no one to draft off of. The guys that have gone through up ahead of me in the lead would have gone through with other fast sprinting riders and got a great draft. I'm effectively going through solo. Having said that, as we bend around the corner here and I pull off the back of Ben, the times for the fastest times so far pop up, and there's clearly going to be no issue. 18.3 is the fastest time. I don't know if he stopped for a biscuit halfway around or something. So all I need to do is exactly what I'd already done in the warm-up. And I get a 16.97, which is almost a second and a half faster than the second place guy. As I say to everyone around me, easy. And that 1.5 second buffer is going to be important. So as I just ride very gently on here to get my breath back, the second lap gives me another chance to sprint again. But that second sprint time is still compared against all sprint times. Typically, people's first sprint is going to be their fastest. So I don't expect anybody that has already gone round to go round faster now than an 18.3 or whatever that guy's time was. But I do need to beat his 18.3 again on my second lap to get the second fastest sprint. Again, absolutely nothing happens on the way going round to the second sprint again. It's a very uneventful race for me other than these two short blasts. Second time round, coming up to the sprint, I know exactly what I need to do. I get close to the corner, ramp it up, I drop a featherweight power up that I've got, go across the line at 1000 watts. Go! Ha! 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 Get ready. Stop.
1690.
Yes! So again, those times that have popped up are the first lap times. But Jen tells me that she timed me at 16.9. Even if she was a second out and I'm actually at 17.9, I'm still faster than the current second place guy. I've got first and second sprint in the bag. And now it's just a case of getting to the finish line. I have a nice little roll for a bit, got some speed up so I can afford to take foot off the gas for a moment, but have to start pedaling again at some point because there are still potentially the odd point or two at stake. The way the scoring works for the current position I'm in, 68th, is that is going to get me 7 race points. In fact, even if I move up to 66th, I will still get 7. If I was able to get to 65th, I'd get 8. But more important, if I get overtaken and move to 69th position, I drop a point down to 6. Does 1 point matter? Yes, every point matters. So my objective at this stage is to maintain the current position I'm in, 68th. There is someone not a million miles back, 8 seconds behind me. So it's quite important for me and Ben to stay where we are and not get overtaken. The people up ahead of us, there's one person 8 seconds ahead. The next person is over a minute ahead. Even if we overtook both of them, we won't move up another point. So basically, we just need to stay exactly where we are. We take turns in drafting off of each other just to maintain our position and ride the last little bit together. We actually catch the guy and we do move up to 66th and 67th place, so we're firmly inside the right point bracket. So last few hundred meters and the two of us just roll through together. We are firmly in the right point bracket. There's no advantage to us in trying to catch anybody. We're not going to get caught by anybody at this stage. So I just sit behind Ben and take a bit of a breather. I'm exhausted at this point. It did cross my mind to blast past him at the last minute, but that seemed like a rather un-team friendly thing to do, so I stay exactly where I am. And we roll across the line in a position that doesn't on paper look to be particularly good until you check the scores. So these are the ZWIFT Power results, category C, and there is me right down towards the bottom. Doesn't look particularly good so far, does it? But if we switch across and look at the sprint times, on lap 1 I had the fastest sprint at 16.973, and on lap 2 I had a sprint of 17.160. Both of those times well inside the second place. Interestingly, Peter, who got fastest second sprint, did actually go faster on his second sprint, only fractionally though, and still over a second slower than my slower sprint, so I was in no danger of getting caught. Also interesting is if I change the category to show all category of riders, so this now includes the A's and B's, I was faster on sprints than any B rider, but there were some A riders that beat me, as you'd expect. But I still got third fastest sprint on lap 1, and on lap 2 I had the 7th fastest sprint overall against a bunch of A riders. So pretty happy with those results. And so lastly, jumping across to the ZWIFT Racing League results themselves. Here is my team here, and here are my points. I got 35 for the sprints, which is 20 for first place, 15 for second place. There's my 7 points for coming 67th in the race overall. Gives me a total of 42 points, which is not bad, highest points in my team. And interestingly, given how far I came down the field, almost last in the whole race, when I look at the total points for everybody else in the race, all the other teams, there were only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people that got more points than me, and one guy that got the same number of points as me. So, in simple terms, my plan worked. It is a course that I should have been absolutely destroyed on, and yet ended up getting a respectable amount of points. Certainly, and importantly, an above average amount of points. And that is that. If I'm going to be stuck in the garage, I might as well be achieving some degree of success while I'm in here, I suppose. Like and subscribe, please. There are videos coming up on other subjects soon, so if you're not a fan of effectively computer games, hang in there, it is all coming. Right now I have to get off and make sure my kids are homeschooling themselves properly. I have a feeling that today's lesson is going to be mop the garage.